Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're heading underground, deep underground. We're talking about the suffocating, honestly hyper-realistic nightmare that is SCP-2003. It's an active Keter-class anomaly, and it's buried right beneath the town of Centralia, Pennsylvania. Look, what we're about to dive into isn't just some weird geographical oddity. It's a high-stakes crisis unfolding right under our feet. So brace yourselves as we take a structured, layer-by-layer look into one of the most horrifying subterranean environments ever documented by the Foundation. Alright, so before we even touch the supernatural stuff in this file, we really need to set the scene. You've got to understand the physical environment we're dealing with here. Beneath Centralia, there is a very real, completely non-anomalous coal seam fire. It ignited way back in 1962, and get this, it's projected to keep scorching the Earth for another 250 years. The ambient environment down there, it's toxic, it's blisteringly hot, and it is entirely inhospitable to human life.
To put that into perspective, just look at the timeline of the collapse above ground versus the crisis below. By 2025, the US government had actually seized all the real estate in Centralia under eminent domain. It basically left behind a ghost town with exactly 5 surface residents. Now the Foundation, they maintain a quiet little outpost up top disguised as an abandoned home, but here's the catch. While the town above was slowly dying over the decades, the true anomaly, which we first got population estimates for in 1993, well, it's been secretly expanding in those burning depths right below us. And that brings us to the core of this whole nightmare, SCP-2003-1. As of today, we estimate there are roughly 5,000 to 6,000 of these entities roaming the mind network. Visually, they look exactly like baseline humans, indistinguishable. But they just spontaneously materialize underground, and they're instantly trapped in the state of constant, unrelenting pain. Let's actually walk through what happens to them as we descend into that first layer. So moving into layers A and B, we call this the bottleneck and the crush, stretching from 0 down to 43 meters. Starting our descent into the uppermost strata, where the ambient heat is absolutely at its peak, by the way, the horror of SCP-2003 is driven by one completely terrifying biological rule. These entities materialize trapped in the fire, right? So they continuously burn and suffocate. But, and here's the kicker, biological death is halted. It just doesn't happen. Instead, their bodies undergo this rapid, automatic regeneration. It literally forces them to wake up, violently thrash around in an endless loop of terror, burn alive again, and just repeat that cycle forever. Now, what's truly horrifying is how that specific biological rule creates a massive physical bottleneck. Up in Layer A, there's a collapsed tunnel known as Shaft C-31. The panic here is so intense that hundreds of these entities have literally wedged themselves together trying to claw their way out. I mean, they have formed a solid 46-meter wall of immortal, thrashing bodies, totally crushed between the ceiling and floor. They can't move an inch. They just constantly suffocate, resurrect, and panic all over again. It completely prevents anyone from escaping the mine. Dropping slightly lower into Layer B, which used to be the mine's administrative hub, things, well, they do not get better. The extra space here actually allowed the fire to spread like wildfire. We're talking massive combustion zones reaching a staggering 800 degrees Celsius near the old mineral veins. When new entities materialize here and realize that the human crush above them prevents any escape, the sheer unimaginable agony of that heat pushes them to migrate even deeper into the earth, just to get away from the flames. Okay, heading further down, layers C and D. This is grotesque survival and submission, sitting between 44 and 62 meters. So as we drop into that 44 to 62 meter range, the fire actually recedes a bit in certain structural pockets, and because of that, some truly bizarre sociological behaviors start to emerge. In Layer C, there's this miraculously intact underground hospital housing around 150 entities. Down here, they formed these highly unstable, hyper-violent microtribes that just compete for blunt objects. And since they aren't constantly burning alive anymore, they start to experience this agonizing phantom hunger. Their solution? Rampant cannibalism. But remember that regeneration rule we talked about. It doesn't magically stop just because the flesh was eaten. No, the ingested matter stays active. It literally rebuilds and grows inside the host's stomach, creating these swollen, grotesque, and completely incapacitated forms. It's just awful. It's a perfect example of how the environment dictates behavior down there, and it creates a really jarring contrast. Up in the Layer C hospital, you've got those aggressively violent, resource-hoarding cannibal factions.
But right below them, in the Layer D abandoned mule stables, the entities are utterly broken. They've just given up. They crawl around on all fours, tethering themselves to the old stalls with scavenged straps in complete submission. Some of them are so mentally shattered, they willingly crawl back into nearby isolated fires and just lie there until they die, regenerate, and do it all over again.
Next is Layer E, the Dark Descent. This massive section runs from 62 down to 154 meters. Plunging past that 62-meter mark, we enter by far the largest section of the anomaly. The fire glow is entirely gone here, replaced by this labyrinth of absolute crushing darkness. The vast majority of the thousands of entities actually live right here, spread across 25 interconnected ash-choked tunnels. Now, because it's pitch black, the rampant violence and cannibalism we saw earlier are mostly limited to accidental bumps in the dark. As a result, their primary behavior has become deeply reclusive. They just bury themselves in massive deposits of soot, absolutely terrified of drawing the attention of any predatory instances that might be roaming around. But you know what's truly alarming about Layer E? It's the sheer scale of it all. The original human miners in Centralia, they only ever reached about 90 meters down. But Layer E goes down to 154 meters. Think about that for a second. That means every single inch past that 90-meter mark has been frantically carved out of solid bedrock by the anomalous entities themselves. They are driven by this totally unstoppable compulsion to just keep digging downward. Moving deeper, Layer F, eerie rituals in the dark, spanning from 155 to 160 meters. Once you hit 155 meters, the frantic violence and terror we've been tracking, it just completely stops. Instead, the anomaly builds something incredibly strange out of the chaos. Down in this pocket, we find a displaced Protestant chapel. Somehow, it sank completely intact from the surface hub all the way down here. The entities occupying this chapel are totally passive. We're actually seeing signs of a fledgling culture, collective chanting, dancing, apparent meditation, and the strangest part, they regularly leave the chapel to gather chunks of raw coal, quietly bringing it back to place on this constantly growing pile right in the center of the room. We have absolutely zero idea what the purpose of this ritual is. It's fascinating, but deeply unsettling. Finally, we reach Layer G, tunneling to escape. This goes from 160 to over 200 meters deep. Stretching well beyond 200 meters into the Earth, this is the deepest documented section we have, and frankly, it is the ultimate active threat to containment. Down here in the absolute abyssal depths, you don't find groups or tribes. You just find isolated entities who have somehow descended from as high up as Layer B. They're using scavenged, antique mining gear to relentlessly hack and dig deeper into the Earth. And the only time they ever stop is to excavate tiny little crevices so they can bury themselves alive. They enter this silent, conscious, semi-hibernative state of entombment indefinitely. But for the ones who don't hibernate, they just keep digging. Which really leaves us with one final chilling thought. We have a subterranean population of up to 6,000 immortal entities, and it is constantly growing. They are trapped beneath a coal fire that's going to burn for another 2.5 centuries, and they are driven by an unstoppable, desperate compulsion to dig away from the inferno. So as they relentlessly carve this anomaly deeper and deeper into the Earth's crust, how deep can they possibly go before the Foundation can no longer keep this nightmare contained? Something to think about the next time you step outside onto solid ground. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep your curiosity focused. This concludes today's briefing. If you wish to maintain your current clearance level and ensure continued access to the Versarian database, a subscription to this channel is mandatory. Secure your connection by leaving a like on this file, and log your requests in the comments section below to dictate which anomaly we unseal next. Stay vigilant and expect your next set of logs every day. Secure, contain, protect.